Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about for loops and while loops, and at the end we will have a challenge for you guys to attempt. Enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. So first let's look at the for loop that uses the range function to set up the loop, and it ends with a semicolon so that the new code starts on an indented line. As you can see, it indents the line, and now we can print the num, and you'll see that it prints from 1 to 12 because the stop value doesn't include the last value. Okay, so just remember that. And run it and you'll see it goes from 1 to 12. Let's make the 2 times table, and that will display the 2 times table. So there we have how you can use a for loop with a range to do your homework for you. Now for loops can also be nested, so you can have a loop within a loop. I want to say, right, so what times tables do we want? Times table, I must use that as my variable. So here we have a for loop, nicely constructed. You've got the outer loop and the inner loop, and then we've got a formatted string that's going to construct and put the values in these curly braces for placeholders. Your times table runs, but it runs right into each other. So we want some kind of a separator. So where would you put the separator? You put it in here. Now if we run it again, you'll see each times table is now separated with a now separator. So it becomes clear where it starts and where it ends. There you go. There you have a nested for loop. Now let's discuss looping through a list. So let's say you have a list of numbers, and there you have a list. Now another way to make a list, and you can use a range function in this. Let's call this another list. And now it will construct a list for you. But before you do that, you have to enclose that in the list function. It'll take that range and it'll build a list and it'll store it in there. So let's print out these two lists so you can see. Run that, so you get your first list which we defined. Okay, there's your first list. And then we get another list which we made using the range function. So now you can loop through these. I'm going to use the first one. So for num in list of numbers, or list numbers as I've called it. Don't forget your colon to start the code, indented code. Now we can do something with those lists. So let's see, let's print, instead of just displaying them, I'm going to say I want the square root of all these numbers, or not the square root, all these numbers squared. So num multiply by 2, and we should get, it will loop through each of these numbers one at a time, and it'll make the calculation and it'll display it. Right, so now you can see there's your list. And then below that, it's now giving you the square of each number: 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, and 81. That is the squares of all those numbers. Right, so that's basically for loops in a nutshell. You can loop through strings as well. So let's make a string, my string, okay, and then we can say for character in my string. Run that. Right, now you can see it's now printed each character on its own line, even the spaces, because a white space is also a character. But the idea here is it's gone through each of these characters, one character at a time, and printed them out. Okay. Right, let's move on. Okay, so now we're going to discuss while loops. Okay, so first we have to set up the while loop with the variable that we're going to be using to check for if the while loop is true. While this condition is always true, the loop will always function. It will always go around in the loop as long as it is true. As soon as it becomes false, then it will exit. So you have to increase the num at some point in the loop. Otherwise, you'll have an infinite loop. So you'll have to have some kind of increment to increment num, so that eventually num gets bigger than, becomes 13 or more, and then this condition becomes false, and then it will exit. So let's display that. You'll see it starts at 0 because num was 0 to begin with, and it gets to 12. It doesn't print 13 because num is less than 13 for it to for it to loop. As soon as it becomes 13 or greater, this condition is false, and then it will exit. Okay, so let's comment that out, and then we can do a while, show you an infinite loop using true, and we'll make a quick number guessing game. So we'll go number, and we'll get input from the user. Okay, so right, so there's the while loop. So I'm using the true here. So this will always be true. And then your code has to check for a condition to break out of the loop, which I'm checking for Q to be pressed, okay, to quit. And if it's small or uppercase, it will then break out of this loop. And here it will check to see if it is actually a valid number within the range I specified. Okay, and then if all of these all check and they don't break out the loop or display that you selected the wrong number, it will then print the number. Okay, so let us test that. Run the code. Ask for a number. I'm gonna check the exit condition first. It breaks out of it. Okay, let's run it again. Let's check the next if statement. Let's choose an invalid number. That is not a valid number. Let's go with -1. Check the other side. That is not a valid number. Okay, let's type a valid number. You chose 3. Okay, let's now quit by selecting the uppercase Q, and it'll exit. So all the conditions work. Right, guys, so that is a while loop in a nutshell. Okay, so now we have our challenge. Okay, I'm just going to put a bit of white space there so we can see the challenge. So the challenge statement is, challenge to calculate the average of a list of numbers and round the result to the nearest integer. Okay, there's our list of numbers that we're going to use, but you must do this without using the len or the sum functions that are built into Python. So basically, we're going to use what we've learned with for loops to do this challenge. Okay, so go off, pause the video now, and go and attempt this challenge. And when you come back, we'll discuss the solution. Okay, so now we're back and we're going to discuss the solution. Okay, so let's change this. Let's make this, because it's a list of numbers, let's make it plural, numbers. And then we're going to say for num in numbers. And now that is going to loop through. It's going to take all these numbers, it's going to add them up, and you're going to get a total amount. And then this is going to count the number of times. Okay, so once we're done with that, we can now print out the results. Okay, so now we have to do the calculation here. So you take total and you divide it by count. But now we wanted to round it, so we've got to use the round function in here to round that off. Okay, and then that should display the results. So let's quickly run that. Right, the sum is 828. The average of the numbers is 75. Okay. All right, so that is the solution, guys. I hope you got to something similar. Right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the content. Have a great day. Cheers.